County.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi, welcome to Be Bike Safe. My name is Krista McKee, and with me today I have Jason Cranny, the Community Service Officer from the City of Owen Sound. Thank you for putting this together for us. I'm usually a host of Wandering Grey Bruce, so this is a little different for me, but thank you for inviting me. The reason we're doing this today is because things have changed with COVID-19, and you weren't able to do a bike rodeo this year.
Correct.
So this is really important that this show is for your kids, yourself as a parent, grandkids, anyone that's on the road should actually be pulled into the room to watch this segment.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
totally agree, and I'm glad that we're actually able to have this partnership and to put on this show. And I'm going to basically reiterate what you just said was if there are kids or grandkids that are in the house and you're watching the show, bring them to the TV set so we can actually kind of walk them through some of the safety parameters that we would normally do if we were doing a bike rodeo. And obviously with COVID and the certain restrictions, we didn't think that we were actually going to be able to do a bike rodeo this year. We have 3 summer students with us. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of do like a small version of a bike rodeo. And I guess it's just a shout out also to the Alliance Church for allowing us to use their facility today.
Yes.
Because we needed a facility. It was a little bit larger that we could actually bring the bikes in. And then a great partnership, as always, with Rogers to put this on.
Yes,
So.
definitely. And so much has changed. When we were getting set up here, I said, my gosh, when I used to hop on a bicycle when I was a kid, you just hopped on the bike and you went.
Yeah.
So much has changed, and there's a lot of new safety protocols that are in place. So we've went from no helmets to helmets to lights to reflectors. It's just evolved for our own benefit.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I think that like anything, it evolves for good reasons. I know some people, they sometimes struggle with some of the rules that are in place, but they're really for the safety and well-being of your kids.
That's right.
And your grandchildren, and even for yourself.
Yes.
And so I
have
know,
to
and
admit,
we'll actually talk about this today.
Yeah.
But bike helmets is one that I am still shocked and surprised at how many adults do not wear bike helmets. But more specifically, they don't wear bike helmets when they're riding with their kids. Adults are role models. Parents are role models.
Yeah.
So if you're telling your kids that they need to wear one, you should be wearing one yourself.
Right.
And it should be cool to be a role model to your kid.
Oh, definitely.
So
yes.
wearing a bike helmet should be a cool thing to do.
That's
because
right. Especially if you're wearing like a Ninja Turtle helmet.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
something.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
You have to make it fun.
That's right, absolutely.
And one thing that I have found with my grandkids when we go on our bikes, I'm the one that's first.
Yeah.
Because those little monkeys are way ahead of me and gone, and I've lost control
Correct.
of having the kids with me,
That's
right?
right, that's right.
And they can't hear. Once you start screaming and yelling at them, they just can't hear. So definitely a role model and be the one in the lead.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if there's 2
Yeah.
parents, oftentimes another thing is you have one at the back.
Yes.
And one at the front.
Exactly.
Just because you're a bigger presence usually, and so
Yeah.
cars can actually see you as you're coming down the street.
Yeah.
And at Owen Sound, we actually have, especially when you're down in the downtown core, with the 10th Street Bridge out, we have a lot of narrow areas of which bikers can actually bike through the core. So you really want to be mindful of traffic and the influx of traffic,
Which is huge right now.
9th
Really.
Street, 8th Street, 6th Street, all those adjacent streets to 10th Street with the flow of traffic and the high volume, and in some cases, like even downtown, some of the narrow streets that you're on, even on 2nd Avenue. It's just kind of understanding a little bit of the road safety, but not only for the cyclists, but for the motorists, and
Yes.
what their responsibility is when they're actually out driving on the roads, and being mindful that there are kids. It is the summertime, and for a lot of children who have been out of school really since March break with COVID.
Yeah.
They're on their bikes and they're flying around town, and motorists have a responsibility to keep an eye out for kids.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the excessive speeds in some of our neighborhoods.
And I have to admit, there's been a few times I've been late for an appointment, and you're just like, oh, but you only gain 30 seconds, or you only gain, like, it's not worth speeding.
No.
For the repercussions of a possible accident. And again, that brings us to why you're doing this, is there have been a couple of bad accidents this year.
Yeah, so earlier this year, in the springtime, there was actually 2 major accidents in the city of Owen Sound, and one was a young person, and another one was an adult. And both were very, very seriously injured, and it just reinforced the fact that we needed to do something. And we had really hoped at the time, back in early May, that we might be able to do like a bike rodeo, or actually get maybe that more day camps would be open, and we'd be able to go to the day camps and actually do these things with each individual area. But as we're moving into August, it didn't seem like that was going to be the case, and we weren't going to have the capacity to do that. So that's why we wanted to do it here, and just really just wanting people to be mindful about, you don't need to save that 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes.
No, you don't.
If it means that a young child or an adult or somebody walking, a pet to their dog is going to get injured, so that you can get there, 1 or 2 minutes quicker. And it's happening a lot more recently.
Yeah, and it's not the fact that it may not be that the bicyclist made an error or the motorist made an error. It could be that the person on the bike has looked to see whether there was someone behind them, and they've got jiggly, they've fallen over and then were hit by a vehicle. Like
possibly, yep.
It's not. It's just, you have to be aware of your surroundings all the time, is the bottom line.
And that's
Really
with the surrounding thing. If you're having, we just talked about it briefly, about people who are cutting through some subdivisions.
Yes.
And a perfect example is people maybe cutting through in behind a Shoppers Drug Mart on the east side of town, and they're trying to get over to 10th Street quicker.
Right.
The problem is when you're cutting through those residential areas that are maximum 40 speeds, and they're that for a reason, no different than a school zone. If you're basically driving through there and you're not aware of the surroundings and the community of which, there's a lot of children in that area, then you might not know the volume of kids or pedestrians just out on the road, for you to save a few minutes.
Exactly, and it only takes that 2-second look away from your kids when they're learning that they're going out, and they drop off the curb and they're onto the road. And,
Absolutely.
So anyway, you have brought some great backup here. I'm so impressed on the group of kids you've got helping you today. We are going to get some lessons. I'm going to get lessons as well. And we're going to start with Jackson, I believe, or
actually,
Noah.
What we're going to do, and the reason why we're doing it this way, is peer-to-peer youth engagement really is something that we should be focusing on. And I can go out and I can give this information, but we have Noah Lundgren, we have Jackson Baker and Desiree Katte, and they're our summer students this year, and they're going to be working with some of the other youth that we have in our community. We have Misha and Jenna and Atu and Ruta, and they're going to be walking them through some of the safety parameters around bike safety, and I think they span from grade 4 to grade 7.
Wonderful. Yeah.
No, not yet. 6. Oh, sorry. So what I'm going to do is I can maybe kind of walk through some of the stuff, but ideally, the summer students are going to show some of the youth that we actually have here.
Perfect.
Some of the safety parameters.
Okay, we will get set up and we'll be right back. So we are set up here now with Noah. And Noah, you, is this your first year working with the City Police?
Yes, this is my first year working with the City Police.
Wonderful. Now, how did you find out about this job?
I actually applied online. I saw a posting for it on Instagram, I think it was. And then, so from there, I have an interest in policing, so I thought it might be a great experience, get to know the ins and outs of the police station and get engaged with the community more.
This is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, it is really.
It is. So you've got everything set up here for us. So tell us what you're going to be doing here with the girls that are volunteering as well, which is wonderful.
Okay, so today I'm going to be covering 2 topics. That includes how to properly fit a bike helmet and how to properly fit a bike. So one way how to properly fit a bike helmet is known as the 2-for-1 helmet salute. So the first step in that is you take 2 fingers, and the helmet should be sitting about 2 fingers above your eyebrows. So perfectly just like that. The second step is the forefinger. So you're going to take 2 fingers in the shape of a V, You're going to slide them underneath the earpieces, and they should fit perfectly just like that. And the last part of that will just be one finger under the chin strap. As you go through this, you should realize that maybe sometimes they need adjusting. And when you're done like going through those steps, the helmet should move no more than 1 inch in any direction. Oh. And yeah, that's really it for the helmets. The purpose of a helmet is basically to protect your head and your skull, your brain as well. Your skull is about 3 pennies thick, so any impact could cause severe damage to your skull and your brain. The helmet works by evenly distributing the shock of the impact across the helmet, therefore reducing the shock on the brain. When you hit your head, there's thousands of connections working together to connect each part of your brain, and those can be torn apart and cause permanent brain damage, which can be very severe and obviously terrible for younger kids.
Definitely, yeah.
The second,
so just one finger?
Yes, it should be about one finger under your chin strap, so that it can help keep your helmet in place in the case of a fall or an accident. Okay,
I think my helmet's too loose. I'm pretty sure my helmet's too loose. Okay, so are we going to check then what the girls are wearing here?
Yeah, so it looks like just by what they did earlier that their helmets fit perfectly, except for maybe the chin strap needs a bit of adjusting, and that can be easily adjusted on most helmets. Another added safety feature that is great for helmets, especially younger cyclists in the spring and summer when you're biking, that might be at dusk or later at night, is Jenna's helmet here has lights on the back of it, which it's perfect for people riding at night. That'd be good. Younger kids, older parents, maybe biking out at night.
Right in here?
Yeah, and they can be activated just with like the push of the button.
Oh, now see, I've never seen that. Is that like if I went shopping for a new helmet, would I see, is it mentioned on the?
I believe not all helmets have it.
Really?
Some of them might, as in this case, Jenna's.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah,
Can you just turn around and show everybody the flashing lights?
Yeah.
That's fabulous. I like that feature.
It is really great, and I would think that maybe if your helmet did not come with that, you could probably buy an extra piece to add on to the back, which would be great for cyclists of all ages.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, because being bent over just a little bit, holding those handlebars would definitely show the flashing light. Wonderful. Now, what else do you have to show here with the kids in the bike?
So the second part I'm going to be doing is covering how to properly fit a bike. So for this I have Natu and Ruta.
Okay. Now, this bike is a boy's bike or a girl's bike?
So this is like one of the bikes that some of our police officers use. I believe for most bikes, it really depends on what you're going to be using that bike for, whether it be maybe trails or just riding on the streets or something like that. There is bikes for both males and females, but it really depends on, as I said, what you're going to be doing with it.
Right.
So there's 5 things to check for when fitting a bike. That first one would be the frame size. Most bikes outline the average size that a rider should be, but one way to tell that is when they're standing over the bike, over the frame, there should be approximately 2 to 3 inches between them and the top tube of the bike. The second part is probably the most important, so the seat height.
Yes.
You don't want your seat to be too low, you don't want it to be too high. So you should notice like the perfect position is when you're sitting on the bike and your feet should be just about flat on the ground. Touching your toes is okay.
Okay.
The third part is the frame length. So when you're sitting on your bike, you want it to be comfortable and you don't want to be stretching forwards, leaning on your handlebars.
Right.
Because obviously if you're biking for a long time or just out with friends, that could just give you a backache at the end of the day, and after having a good day, nobody wants that.
Right, so you want to make sure that you're at a certain angle then when you're holding your handles, and then you can you adjust this then to bring it to the right height?
Yes, I believe most bikes can be adjusted for size and height as they grow or as they adapt, I guess. Would one of you guys want to like hop on the bike and just help us guide us around? So here, him sitting on the bike, that is about the proper height you'd want your feet to be touching so that you can just touch the ground.
Toes.
Your toes are okay. It'd probably be better just to get a bit more of your feet on the ground. When he's leaning forward, you can tell it's a gentle stretch, not like hunched over, hurting his back.
Right, so can you hold the handlebars? So this is this is a good stretch for the handlebar?
Yeah, so this is really like the optimal position because you're not stretched too forwards, hurting your back. Your feet are comfortably being able to touch the ground. And one of the things you want to look for is definitely growing into a bike. So when you're buying a bike, getting a bike from somebody, You don't want one that just fits, that you'll be out of next year or at the end of the season. The fifth thing to look for is really brake levers. If your bike has hand brakes like this one does, you don't want to be trying to grab your hands around them, not being able to touch them, because in like a situation where you need those brakes, that could cost you time and save you an injury. Many bikes you can adjust the brake levers so that you can comfortably grab them in case you need to stop quickly or just anytime you're slowing down.
Okay, so this bike suits you perfectly.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so the next segment that we're going to have a look at, we'll bring someone else in and we'll be right back. We got to get set up. So now we have Jackson with us, and he is going to show us the proper signals that we are to be using when we are on the roads. Jackson, welcome to the show, and thank you for doing this for us. I think Noah's going to be your model, maybe?
Yes, Noah will show us the arm signals. He'll get on the bike for me to show him. So arm signals while riding a bike are very important. Unfortunately, not a lot of people use them. There's a very limited amount. It's best to say, they're important because it's best to say predictable when you're on the road to other users and especially cars, because that's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
So if you hop on the bike, I can show you tell you how to do the arm signals then. So the first one I'll show you is to make a left turn. So to make a left turn, you're going to take your left arm and put it straight out to the side, and that's just going to signal any car around you that you're going left.
Right.
So now we'll go the opposite way to make a right turn. So there is two ways to do a right turn. So first way, you can take your left arm, put it out to the side, and you're going to put it 90 degrees up, and that's going to signal you're going right.
Okay.
And then the other way is to put your right arm and put it straight out to the side. And you can either point that direction or just have your hand flat, flush, parallel to the ground preferably, to signal you're going right. And then the final one that you need to know is for stopping. So stopping is your left arm all the way out, but you're going to put it 90 degrees downwards.
Hang it down.
And that's going to signal to the cars that you are stopping. One that not a lot of people know is just slowing down. So the signal car you're slowing down if you're going to make a turn or anything is you're going to use your left arm straight out to the side, and you're just going to move it in an up and down motion.
That you're slowing down.
Yeah.
So that one I did not know about.
Yeah.
So very good. You've taught me something. Yes.
Yes. So that's going to show you're slowing down. Is just going to help increase predictability for you and help people know exactly what you're doing.
Very good.
And that's going to help. And then these signals are used around the world for biking and all different aspects. I snowmobile in the winters, so in the winters all the riders on snowmobiles are using these hand signals. So it's not just good to know them for riding bikes, but it's good to know them for any other form of transportation.
That's right, yeah. Motorcycles too, e-bikes, all of those, yeah. Very good. Thank you very much, Jackson.
Yes.
So we'll get set up for our next segment, and we'll be right back. Desiree has us set up for our next segment, and I have to ask, how did you find out about working for the City Police?
I came across it on Facebook and I hired from there.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So you have an interest in policing or?
Photography, and I thought it would be good to tie photography in with policing, yes.
Very good, yeah, because there's so many different divisions in policing.
Yeah.
So tell us here what you've got us set up on the gym floor here. So I'm gonna just let you explain the scenario that you've put together here.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm doing an intersection demonstration. So here we have Noah on the bike, and this is the sidewalk. And then, can I have you two over here, please? This will be the road, and be on like a car. So they'd be driving, and then you can go right there. So when Noah is going and wants to go straight, but then he can't go through there, and then when you would turn right and make a right turn, and then make a right turn.
Oh, I see, yes. So we've had a collision. Yes.
Yep,
Noah has turned right and didn't see the bicycle to his right-hand side. Yes. So that's a bad place for a bicycle to be?
Yeah, because then you get caught between the curb, and then that's how accidents can happen.
Ah, okay.
But if Noah was in here and then got...
So our second scenario, you've moved Noah. Now this is the road now.
It's the road now.
Perfect.
And then everyone could see each other because he's not in the blind spot, and then they're all they're all behind each other.
So Noah is now a vehicle.
Yep.
He's in the
Then-
line of traffic.
And then if everyone's going, then everyone's safe.
Ah, very good. Yes. So it's best that when you are with traffic, that you be in the traffic and not off to the right. So
Yes, it's best to be behind the cars when you're riding on the right side and not beside, because if you're looking in the blind spot and you're in the blind spot, then you can't see the person.
very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys are very good vehicles. Yes. So we're back with Jason Cranny, and you have done an absolute fabulous job with your summer students that you have this year. The last scenario that Desiree
Yes.
demonstrated for us really drives a lot of safety features home, if you wanted to explain more on that.
Yeah, and so Desiree and Natu and Ruta just did that quick little kind of a walkthrough, which sometimes it's hard to do with just pedestrians and a bike. But ideally, and it really was geared towards maybe older youth, teens, and adults, about taking that position in a lane of traffic.
Yes.
Specifically when you're downtown Owen Sound and sidewalks. It's a bylaw. You can't actually ride your bike on the sidewalks down in the downtown core.
Right.
So if you are down and you're riding in the streets of town, especially in the downtown area, that you take up that lane of traffic, and it's okay to do so. And as Desiree alluded to, when you actually come to a stop sign or a street signal, when you're behind a vehicle, they can see you in your rearview mirror, but you can also see where they're turning.
Yes.
So as the demonstration showed, if you're on the sidewalk and you had planned to head through, and they were turning right, you didn't know they were turning right, they didn't know that you were beside them, that's usually where accidents happen, and it's unfortunate, but it can happen quite quickly. So we just have to be mindful that, if you're, older youth, teens, especially adults, take up that lane of traffic. Even the cars behind you can see you. They know that you're right there. So there's nothing that's going to be darting out of nowhere.
Exactly, and a lot of cars now have terrible blind spots in them.
Yes.
And if you were on the right-hand side, you wouldn't be seen, and that's turning right would definitely be a huge,
Exactly.
huge accident. Now you mentioned the bylaw that is in for downtown core.
downtown core.
Not allowed on sidewalks.
That's right, and really, it's having people fly downtown, and you have merchants downtown,
Right.
And people are coming out of stores, and you got bikes coming, and you could be hit.
Oh, definitely.
But
Yes.
it can be a little bit of a different scenario if you're in a residential neighborhood and you have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and they're just trying to learn for the first time.
Exactly,
People are
yes.
pretty understanding that little kids would be on the sidewalk just for safety precautions. And again, it's always just being mindful for people who are actually walking on the sidewalks, because that's technically what they're for.
Yep.
But as they get comfortable and they're bike safe and they're biking with their parents or an adult, and they basically followed some of the protocols that we walked through today, that they should gradually move out into the road and be more comfortable riding on the road. And again, it's also imperative that motorists are mindful.
Yeah.
We're in a city, we don't need to be speeding through town. And that we're going to be having cyclists and skateboarders and people on scooters and e-bikes and all kinds of different modes of transportation,
Exactly.
On the roads.
Yeah, and in single file. I always like it when they're in
Yep.
single file.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it is frustrating when you come across a group of kids that are 3 and 4 wide, and I can see it. It's when you're on the road, you have to be mindful of all the rules on the road, whether you're in a bicycle or you're in a car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I should mention is oftentimes you'll see, kids will be darting in and out of parked cars. We didn't actually go over that. But again, if you're a motorist and you have, whether it's a kid, a teen, an adult, it really doesn't matter. But if you're darting in and out of parked cars, the motorist might not know that you're there, and all of a sudden you are.
You are.
So you're really putting yourself in a dangerous position, and it becomes, a kind of a scary position if you are not mindful of your surroundings. And it keeps
Exactly.
going back to kind of what we talked about today, specifically in Desiree's spot at the very end. Just really being mindful of where you are. You can take a lane of traffic. That is totally fine. As you move along, you can slide over to the right-hand side because you are a slower form of traffic. But as you come up to a stop sign or a street light, please take that lane of
Take that
traffic
lane.
and be safe about it.
Yeah.
But it's a good question about sidewalks and young kids.
Yeah. I know as a grandparent, and
Yep.
I've been in town, I always make my grandkids be on the sidewalk because
Absolutely.
I want them to be safe, right?
Yeah.
I don't want them out on the road because it breaks all the rules.
Absolutely.
They're not allowed on the road. So, yeah.
And the
it's
other
tough.
thing you can also do, and especially if you're, and we talked about this earlier, about the downtown area being very congested, lots of traffic right now, smaller lanes,
Yeah.
that if you're coming up, there's no reason why you just can't get off your bike and just walk it across a major intersection, especially if you are a younger kid, a younger teen, or even an adult. Like, there's nothing wrong with just getting off, walking it across the road,
Exactly.
and then hopping it on when you get over there. Because really, you don't want to be hit. So if you're
No.
a little bit nervous, you're just unsure, just walk your bike across the
Yeah.
road.
Now, what about skateboards? We just mentioned them briefly. Where is a skateboarder supposed to be? On a sidewalk?
So a skateboarder, much like the bike, should be on the road.
Should be on the road as well?
And ideally, skateboarders should be also wearing helmets.
Yes, and any type of elbow gear protector?
Yeah, you can always put any kind of protection you want. Basically, it's to protect yourself. But really, I can't stress enough about protecting the head.
The head.
Especially with where we have so much talk about concussions, and concussions are real. But just protecting that melon.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
oftentimes you'll see that skateboarders do a great job up the skateboard park of wearing helmets, or a lot of certainly the younger ones do. But also getting from point A to point B wearing that helmet.
And scooters as well.
Scooters is the
Scooters
same
are a
thing.
huge thing right now.
Yeah, modes
Yeah.
of transportation for kids
Yeah.
to get to and from.
Yeah. And I've seen a few adults on scooters. There must be a new electric type scooter that's out now.
There's like a little bit of a hybrid kind of, you can use it.
Yeah.
They're kind of like more of a longboard.
Yeah.
And I don't profess to be like a skateboarder or a longboarder, but that's, you
Yeah.
can certainly see them around town.
Yeah.
Again, just being mindful, and it goes both ways, whether it's motorists or non-motorized vehicles, is that they just have to be careful that we are sharing the road with each other.
Definitely,
And we
yeah.
don't want to have happen what happened earlier this spring, having 2 people who are seriously injured just for bike accidents
Yeah.
with vehicles.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and there's definitely lots of congestion on the road. I see a lot more e-bikes
Yep.
now as well, and I know some of them have kept to the right. Should they be in with the
Well, slower
with the
traffic
lane of-
usually moves right, but if there's only one lane of traffic, then they can take up that lane of traffic. But again, it's also the comfort zone, no different than a cyclist. By moving over to the right, they feel more comfortable. But again, if you're coming up to that major intersection, you need to take up that lane of traffic
They
so
need
that
to.
vehicles can actually see you when you're moving through that major intersection, or that intersection. It doesn't matter if it's a major intersection, but
But
an
any
Any
intersection.
intersection, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. You have done a fabulous job with your summer students.
Oh, they did a great job, yeah.
Hats off to all of you guys that have helped today. You've done an awesome job, very well spoken. Great learning experience for you as well. And when you are out on those roads, make sure that you're safe.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks to Rogers and the Alliance Church for hosting us today, and for all the students who took part.
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Be safe.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.
On August 4th, an explosion in Beirut killed and injured thousands of people. Families lost their homes, food, and livelihoods in a country already stretched to the limit. Your donation today